Welcome to another episode of Black Girl Diagnosed. Today we're joined by Kai, a neurodivergent and physically disabled mother, lactation consult, and published author, nonprofit founder, public speaker, and disability activist. Kai's work is deeply rooted in lived experience and a commitment to true access and inclusion. As a proud service dog and ambulatory wheelchair user, they use their voice to challenge ableism and push accessibility beyond the bare minimum. Let's welcome Kai to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. That's a great introduction. I don't know if I sent that to you, if you wrote it, but you sound like a
We
celebrity.
like try to like move it around a little bit to fit our style, but we just make them out of like the guest bios. So, the first thing I want to talk about, because I feel like people have a lot of misconceptions about, are service dogs. So, you're a proud service dog user and a strong advocate for accessibility beyond the bare minimum. Can you share what having a service dog has meant for your independence and what you wish more people understood about service dogs and their handlers?
Yeah, absolutely. So my service dog's name is Baloo. He is a standard poodle, and he's like the light of my life outside of my children. He has saved my life so many times. So because I am ambulatory, so I do walk. I do have the ability to walk and stand for short periods of time. A lot of folks are like, why do you need a service dog? But he does so many things for me, from retrieving items when I need them. If they've fallen on the floor and I can't pick them up, he can retrieve those for me. He can guide me through crowded places if I'm overstimulated, if I have any sort of harmful behaviors that I'm engaging in, such as, like stimming too hard or, hitting my head or anything like that. He can disrupt those behaviors to make sure I don't hurt myself. Like, he is so incredible. And people use service dogs, obviously for more than just guide work. Folks think that they're just for people who are blind or have low vision, or folks who maybe are deaf or hard of hearing, but that's just not the case. Like, service dogs have so many, so many amazing talents and uses, and I highly recommend them for folks if they feel like they have somebody who can help them take care of the dog, or if they can take care of the dog themselves. Obviously, he needs to be groomed, he needs to be fed, he needs to be let out to go use the bathroom and things like that. But he's just so incredible, and he has helped me in a way gain independence just from his existence. I have so much more confidence that if something does happen to me in public, if I do get overwhelmed or if I get lost, I have him with me to guide me. And just that reassurance enough is enough for me to be able to even leave the house. Before getting him, I left the house maybe, oh gosh, once or twice a month, if that. And always accompanied by my husband, who would have to drive me to my doctor's appointments, who would have to take me to any sort of appointments that I had, like outside of that. Job interviews, he would have to drive me to those too. But since getting Baloo in 2022 or 2023, so I've had him for a couple of years now. I have independence that I didn't even know that I could like have. Go to doctor's appointments by myself all the time with Baloo. I just recently traveled to Boston for a summit that I spoke at, and I took Baloo with me, and that was the first time that I traveled by myself in I don't know how long. So yeah, it's just like seeing what my life was before him and after him. I'm like, I don't know how I made it this far without him.
Right. Yeah, I think that is such a beautiful thing. And I never had a service dog, but I did have a dog. And I feel like they have natural instincts with their humans because, as someone with a seizure disorder, my dog would sense and would know, and I couldn't even tell sometimes, and come and sit by me or pat me to like get me to sit down. So I know people think that dogs, they have a sense, they do have some sense, but that is really a beautiful thing. And just to hear how the quality of your life improves with your service dog, I think it's important for people to know those type of things. So, you talked about high masking within the autistic community, something many of our listeners can relate to. Trust me, I can. But what does masking look like for you, and how has unmasking or embracing your full self impacted your life and your mental health?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I still find myself masking on a regular basis. One of the examples that I've given most recently is when I was working for the city of Boston. You know, we were all about these virtual meetings and things like that. And I often had my camera turned off because I'm so focused on what my face is doing and so focused on am I smiling the right way, am I blinking the right way, that sort of thing, am I reacting the way that I'm supposed to? That I just could not focus on any of the meetings. So I usually would just turn my camera off. And in fact, right now, even though my camera is on, I have it so my screen, I can't see what my face is doing right now. I can only see you because
You
if I
look great.
do, oh, thank you. But if I see my own face, I'm going to be so much more focused on what it's doing than actually listening to your questions and answering them and having a conversation. And so masking shows up in all these small ways, like forcing myself to go out to, like company events and things like that, and staying much longer than I have the energy to stay. Or even like, like parent teacher events at school with my oldest. If I feel like, I'm starting to kind of run low on that social battery, I would force myself to stay longer because, it looks bad if you leave early and, things like that. But now, I still mask occasionally, but I've found ways to accommodate myself in, like, for example, if I'm interviewing for a job or something like that, I'll ask for the questions ahead of time so I can script them. That's like, one way that I can kind of unmask and not have to feel like I'm like being put on display, like I feel like a lot of autistic people, especially those of us who are women or women presenting, and especially if you're black or brown, kind of feel like we have to do this performative dance in every aspect
Yeah.
of life. It's every aspect of life, not even just job interviews, but it's like a simple, like going to the store to get your coffee in the morning feels like a performance because you're like, okay, am I going to be perceived as rude today because I'm black and autistic? Or are they going to think that I'm, like overly friendly because I'm, autistic and I'm trying to overcompensate? Like, it's so much. Are they going
Yes,
to think I'm
I
flirting with
feel that.
them?
I feel that so
Oh,
bad because everything we do is policed. So it's like we're not being rude. We're trying to cope in a world that was not meant for our brains. Our brains were not programmed to be here. So, adding the extra layer of being black, like masking, like you got to be careful because it's not safe for black autistic people to unmask everywhere. And I think that's something that people don't understand.
yeah, I could not agree more. There's definitely some situations where if I wasn't masking, for example, like a lot of the times I will switch back and forth between using like Black American vernacular English and just standard American English in certain situations because I know that if I'm going to look for look at a house that my family wants to live in, if I'm out there using AAVE, they're not gonna want to,
Right.
let us live in this, this nice neighborhood, that sort of thing. And it's like it shouldn't have to be that way, but like or even like interacting, like don't even get me started on interacting with like police officers. Like if you're speaking it like a certain kind of way, they're gonna automatically have assumptions for you
Yes.
regardless. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, like I don't even have to tell you, but for people who are listening, like this is what we deal with on a regular basis.
Yeah, and like actually like my dad is an activist, civil rights activist, and right now he's working on a case where the police they almost beat this black guy to death, and he's mentally challenged. So, people with disabilities, and especially black people with disabilities, mental health challenges, things don't go well with the police, and he wasn't even doing anything. They just beat the shit out of him. But I feel everything that you're saying. So I want to move on to parenting while autistic. I feel like I don't see this enough being spoken about. So I love when I see your posts. I'm not really on Instagram as much right now. I kind of just post and get off because anxiety and overstimulating
Same.
every time I do an update, I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
But whenever I do see your posts, they are always so informative. And, these are things that I didn't know as somebody who doesn't have children. But you, parenting as an autistic person, it brings both unique challenges and incredible strength. So, what has that experience been like for you? And how do you approach parenting through a neurodivergent lens?
Great question. I'm going to preface this by saying if I had known that I was autistic prior to having children, I
Mhm.
either wouldn't have had kids or I would have waited much, much longer to have them. Because I had my youngest, she'll be 7 in April, so
Mhm.
7 years ago, in my early 20s. And I didn't know that I was autistic. I didn't know that I have ADHD. I didn't know about any of the mental health disabilities that I have, let
Mhm.
alone the physical disabilities that I have. So putting even physical disabilities aside. I remember I think it was, she must have been like 5 or 6 months old, and she was real colicky, which just basically means she would scream and cry for an unknown reason. Turns out, spoiler alert, she was autistic and overstimulated, but
Yeah.
that's, down the road. We figured that out. But I was getting so overstimulated by that. And my response to her having this screaming episode was to kind of have my own meltdown. And after the fact, I was diagnosed with postpartum psychosis, which was an incorrect diagnosis.
Mhm.
It was an autistic meltdown. Um,
Yeah.
but I wasn't able to accommodate myself, so I didn't have noise canceling headphones. I didn't know what stimming even was. I would try to restrict myself from moving in those certain ways, and I didn't know how to ask for help. And
Right.
that's why I say I would have either not had kids. I think I would have always had kids. I feel like at my true core, I am a mother. But I would have waited much, much longer. Now we have twins who are about a year and a half now.
Oh wow. Twins
Yeah,
run in my family.
really?
My grandma had three sets of twins. My mother was a twin.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. They do not run in our family, so we were surprised to say the least. But love them all the same. And they are a year and a half years old, and I think it was probably around 3 months old. I was like, oh yeah, these babies are autistic too. Like, there's no way they're not. Because I now see characteristics of myself in them at a young age, and I feel like that's a unique strength of being an autistic parent with autistic kids is if they need extra support like speech therapy or they need physical therapy or they just need to bring STEM toys to school, like things like that, I can identify those much, much earlier than I would have before I knew that I was autistic. Like that is something
Right.
that I'm so grateful for. And our oldest, who is in public school now, so she was in private school up until or first grade, and then this year at first grade, she's in public school, which has been a whole nother world trying to navigate that. But
Right.
she has an IEP now, which is great. And being an autistic mother, sitting in that IEP meeting, I was able to advocate for her in a way that I don't know that other parents who are just, who are maybe allistic or even neurotypical parents of autistic children can advocate for their kids in this way because they don't know the same, they don't have the same characteristics, they don't have the same experience. Like, I'm the only person that she knows. Like, I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. I was gonna say I'm the only person she knows who is black and autistic, but my mother and my sister are both autistic too. So I don't know
Oh
why I
wow.
was gonna say that. Yeah, I mean, because it runs in families. It's it's genetic to put it that way. Not that we know that
Yeah,
specific
definitely.
genes.
I told my dad, I was like, I think, and I love my brother. I'm not speaking bad about him, but I told my dad, I was like, I think that my brother has ADHD. And he was like, oh, well, I don't really know. And I was like, okay, my brother went, he got assessed, he has ADHD.
Yep,
So,
and we know because we can
because
recognize
I
it.
don't want to be that person who tries to diagnose people, but sometimes I see somebody and I'm like, yeah, you're one of us.
I'm that person. I am that person every single time. I do not care because I wish someone would have told me. I wish that somebody else would have told me the
I feel the same
diagnosis,
way.
you
I feel the
know?
same way.
So
Because
yes,
growing up not knowing is probably I'd be very different emotionally. I probably wouldn't be so emotionally stunted because I would have been able to get the services that I needed. So I wish that somebody would have looked and been like, hey, I think something's going on here, but enough about me. And
exactly.
back
No.
to back to autism and parenting. So with being an autistic parent, what were some of the biggest barriers or the misconceptions that you face? Like, what do you think healthcare professionals need to better understand about autistic parents?
Yeah, just that we exist, really. I mean,
Right.
they seem to think that to be autistic, you can only be a child and somehow it grows out. Let me say this. When we were in her IEP meeting, one of the people on her team was like, "Oh, so do you want us to put that autism as an outdated diagnosis because she didn't qualify for the IEP under autism, she qualified under something else because she has a reading delay. She has a reading disability."
Mhm.
And so that's what she qualified for. And I was like, "Why would you ask me if a life some you're born autistic, you die autistic? Why would you ask me if
Yes, I be trying to tell people that.
like, come on now. And that is what I want people to understand is that autistic children grow up to be autistic adults, and autistic adults have autistic like adult lives, and we create more children, and it just keeps going and going and going. So yes, my daughter right now is autistic, and she swears up and down she's going to be a mom just like me, and she wants a big family and everything. And I believe her. I think, and because I was about her age too when I knew I wanted to be a mother, and I think that so letting healthcare professionals know that one, we exist, but two, because we're autistic and we're if we tell you early, if we tell you at 3 months old that we think our kid is autistic, you better believe us because
Yeah,
we
right.
know. Because
Right, exactly.
we know. And that's a hard fight that I've had to make with, with the twins because they're so young and they are pre-verbal, so they have some babbling and they can say dada and mama, but
Hmm.
we're not sure if they're going to have, full sentences ever. We don't know. We're teaching them sign language and they seem to be picking up a little bit. But their doctor was like, oh, it's okay. Like, they'll catch up. And I'm like, it's not catch like if they talk, they talk. If they don't, they don't. Like we're fine
Right.
with that. We're not going to put them in speech therapy because we want them to talk. We're going to put them in speech therapy if we do because they have words that they're trying to express and they're getting frustrated that they don't know how to say it. Like that is that. So those sorts of things is what I want these healthcare providers to know is like, don't pressure us to put them into a certain type of therapy, but listen to us when we tell you that we know that our child is autistic or neurodivergent.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes, you know this too, that autistic people, when it comes to our health, our well-being, when we reach out to doctors and try to talk to our doctors, they gaslight us. They don't listen to us. And
Mhm.
I'm like, we understand our brains more than you ever will. So the least you can do is listen.
Yep.
But let's talk about this advocacy.
Mhm.
So your work blends advocacy, education, and creativity so beautifully. What changes do you hope to see in how society approaches accessibility, inclusion, and support for neurodivergent parents and families?
Oh man. So in addition to Autistics Unmasked, which is my nonprofit, I now have a separate consulting business called Please Call Me Kai,
Mhm.
all one word. And this is the change that I want to see. I want to see businesses and places of employment and restaurants and banks and everywhere that disabled and neurodivergent people exist, which is everywhere,
Yes.
to expect us to be there, to expect that there's going to be autistic people, there's going to be wheelchair users, there's going to be people who are deaf or blind. I want them to expect that because when they start expecting it, their policies and procedures and all of these things immediately make this shift towards, oh, well, we're having this event, but it's on the second floor and there's no elevator. Let's go move it to a different venue because we're expecting that there's going to be at least one wheelchair user, things like
Right.
that. Or,
Mhm.
for example, if a restaurant is usually like really, really busy on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but Mondays are their slow days, and they know that they have autistic guests who come and like the food, but they're overstimulated by all the noise. Make
Yeah.
Monday a sensory-friendly day because it's a slow day anyways, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And this is what am trying so hard to, I just started this consulting business, so I'm hoping that it starts to take off here in the next, couple of months into the next year, because it could be such a better world if disabled and neurodivergent people were expected to be in places as opposed to just, oh, we'll change it if there's somebody there. No, there's someone there. There is
Yeah, and
absolutely
I
someone
think that
there.
they forget that sometimes.
Yep.
But and then also it's just like, but why wouldn't you expect autistic and disabled people to be somewhere where we're not beneath you? So why don't you expect for us to be here?
Yeah, like we're outside. Like we go outside and we like, my sister and I, like we every month we go out to a bar together and just to hang out. Like, we go out to these places and the bar that we go to is actually an incredible example of them expecting disabled people to come because they don't even have stairs to get up. It's a a full ramp to get up into their
Oh, wow.
single story. It's one story all on the ground, and then to get outside, it's all there's like an outdoor patio area again, all one level. Like it is perfectly designed for disabled people. So if I wanted to go up in there with my wheelchair, I could do it with no problem because that ramp is a gorgeous, gorgeous ramp. I'm like chef's kiss, whoever
Yeah,
designed
and
this ramp.
all restaurants need to have that. Like, why do you? And another thing they need to have, I feel like more public restrooms should have adult changing tables, but they
Yes.
don't. And I'm just like, this isn't fair. Like, somebody who's a caregiver, they have to change their family member possibly on the dirty bathroom floor because you don't have adult changing tables. So that's something that has always bothered me, and I don't know why, but it has
No,
always bothered me.
it's valid because there are so many people, even, larger children or like, I'm talking like, 13, 14 years old who are still in diapers. There's
Hmm.
nowhere to change them. And not only that, but there's no changing tables in what are labeled as men's restrooms either, as if men can't also be caregivers.
Yes.
So I'm right there with you. And don't even get me started on service dog relief areas and airports. That's a whole other thing too. So yes, I'm right there
It,
with
it,
you.
it is, and it's like sometimes when it's not that hard to just make a few adjustments to accommodate people. Like I do have a hard time going to restaurants, but for certain people I'll go, for certain occasions I'll go, but we always have to like ask them, do you have a quiet where there's no speaker, where the lights aren't bright? And sometimes we get attitude back and they're like, well, we don't have that's not nobody's area right now. Okay, well, if it ain't nobody's area, ain't nobody over there, you shouldn't have a problem sitting us
Yeah,
there. So they,
exactly.
they give attitude. But thank you for sharing all of that. But
Yeah.
um please tell everybody about your upcoming memoir, what inspired you to write it, and what you want others to learn from it.
Yes, so it is unnamed as of right now. I'm still working on a name. But this is something that I have been wanting to do for probably the past 3 years or so.
Mhm.
I have a book that I've already written called Sweet Nectar, Everything You Want to Know About Chest Feeding, and that comes from my lactation background. And I wrote that before I knew that I was autistic, so it doesn't have a ton of, like sensory experience sort of things in there about lactating while being autistic. But my memoir is the idea kind of came from the TED Talk that I gave, which is called Unmasking My Autistic Truth. And I wanted to expand on living my life an undiagnosed, up until my mid-20s, undiagnosed Black autistic woman, and talk about all the things that we've talked about here. So talk about parenting and what that has looked like and the struggles that have come with being undiagnosed, and then the challenges that we've overcome since being diagnosed. I want to talk about the way that navigating job interviews or looking for a house or things like that, social interactions, friend groups that just disintegrate before my eyes and I have no idea why. And that's
Yeah.
such a common thread between autistic people is, we have no clue what we did wrong, but they insist you know what you did. And it's just like, why why does this keep happening to me? And I know I'm not the only autistic person who feels that way, and especially
Yeah, I feel that way too.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm I spoke about this on my last show, about the grief that comes with losing people. At trying to be a friend as an autistic person, it's not the easiest, but I feel like we do our best. And then, and I spoke about unmasking and people losing people when you unmask because they were in love with the mask version of you. So all of that, I understand and I feel that so bad.
And those are all things that I want to talk about in my memoir. So it is a work in progress. I'm hoping and praying by this time next year it'll at least be done with a full first draft and then release it into 2027. And I probably will go self-published. So since you are the first person to actually know about me writing this memoir, I'm giving you like official as soon as it's released, I will let you know.
Thank
So
you so
keep
much.
it
And
ahead.
when it comes out, I would love for you to come back and we can get back into the memoir, focus on the memoir.
I
So
would love
whenever it
that.
comes out, just keep us posted, shoot us an email, and I would love to have you back. So
Okay.
besides your memoir and your new consulting business, are there any recent projects that you would like to share?
No, really, that's it. I mean, my consulting business is my baby now.
Hmm.
Autistics Unmasked. I've kind of, I still am very much involved and have moved from CEO to head of education. So I've kind of changed my role with the organization a little bit to kind of fit the needs better. But really, it's my consulting business. That is something that I'm trying to really, now we live in Charlotte. We were in Boston for 3-ish years, maybe almost 4. And now we're in Charlotte, and Charlotte's got a lot of work to do. Boston was a good place to get started, but Charlotte is very far behind. It's the South, it's the Bible Belt,
Yeah, I used
so
to live in
things.
Atlanta.
Okay, yeah. Down here, things that move a little bit differently and a little bit slower. So that is definitely something that I am, trying to look at. I'm not really like a marketing person, but just, figuring out ways to boost my social media and boost my different platforms so that folks know that I'm here and that I'm doing consulting and doing keynotes
Right.
and things like that.
Well, I don't have the biggest social media following, but
Oh,
I like.
you have a following.
Well, to me, I don't really know, but I'll share anything you'd like. If you want, you can send over your consultant information, like a little bio about it, and we can put it on the podcast page.
Oh, that would be amazing. Thank you so much.
You
Yeah,
are
that would be
so welcome.
amazing.
So, is there anything you want people to take away from this interview?
Yeah, just that like autistic people are here. We exist in every single space and we are parents and we go to restaurants and we are like we have these fulfilling careers and lives. And no, not all of us. Some of us still get taken care of by our parents or caregivers, and that's okay too.
Yeah,
Like
I live with my dad, and people are like,
and
"You still live with your dad?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's a
yeah.
giver."
My sister, when this podcast comes out, I'm sending it to her so that she can watch it and listen to and hopefully hears you say that because she's in her mid-20s and she still lives at home with our mom. And I keep telling her it's okay. Like if I hadn't met my
Yeah,
husband when I did and got married, I would have still been living at home too.
yeah,
Like
I'm a millennial, so like all of my
yeah.
friends have kids and they're married, and I'm just like, "Oh, hey." But yeah, I live with my dad, and sometimes people say to him, they're like, "You're enabling her," and he's like, "I'm not enabling her.
Mm-mm.
I'm meeting her care and her support needs."
Good. Oh, good on your dad. That's amazing because that is something that not a lot of people have. And so I'm like, props to your dad for that, for being like actually a parent, not just saying, "Oh, you're over 18, bye." Like,
No, he's there was a transition period where like where you're transforming from being a teenager to an adult where I
Mm,
had a hard time and my parents just thought that I was being lazy. They didn't know that I just couldn't
yep.
mentally or emotionally do things that I should have been able to do because they didn't know I was autistic. I was only diagnosed about 10 years ago. But
Okay.
once my mama passed away right before we found out I was autistic and my dad, as soon as he found out, he went online, he started researching. He
Oh,
joined some like autism groups, but I told him I was like, be careful in there because on white folks
yeah.
can be a little vicious sometimes.
Hmm.
But um, where can everybody find you online? Any social sites that you want to share, please share.
Yeah, so I am on everything. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. I think I have a Pinterest, but I don't use it very much. But if you type in please, so PLS and then CALL, call me Ky Kai, please call me Kai, all one word. You will find me in just about any social media
Okay, yes,
platform.
I need to
Uh,
re-add you on LinkedIn. LinkedIn wouldn't let me get back into our old account, so I had to start over. So I'm glad that
So
you
please
just
add me, yes.
yes, you just
Well, and
reminded me. I
I
am going
was
to add you.
just talking to my friends the other day about you because I was like, I'm supposed to be doing this interview with for a podcast, and I was like, I've known this woman for a while through Twitter. Actually, I think is where we first like interacted
Yes,
with each other
Twitter and
on Twitter
TikTok.
and TikTok, and that was like I want to say that was like over a year or something ago. It was a
Yeah,
while
it
ago.
was a couple years. I think we were just coming out of the pandemic.
Yes, that's right. That's right. We were,
It was
and
like one of the
it
first pages I followed. I do remember that.
You too, yeah, yeah. And I was like, and I just remember saying to myself, like, I'm so happy that there are other Black women out there doing the same thing that I'm doing. It makes me feel like I'm not alone in this sort of advocacy fight. Like there are actually so many of us who are trying to make our presence known here. And I cannot even like thank you enough for what you do and how you put
Oh,
your
thank you so
there.
much. The reason I started the podcast is because, like I don't think I have a big following, but I wanted to try and do my part to amplify the voices of other Black, disabled, neurodivergent, anybody that has some type of disability or disorder. Everybody, some people won't give you a chance to share your story, and I don't
Yeah.
want to be that person. So, like, I just really wanted to amplify the voices of women and, trans women, binary people, all of that. Me being asexual myself, I just feel like sometimes people don't know where to place you. So
Yeah,
that was one
that's
of the
fair.
reasons why I started the podcast.
Well,
But thank
amazing
you
thing.
so much, Kai. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing your powerful story and wisdom today. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Black Girl Diagnosed. Your presence and support means everything. And until next time, keep advocating with love.